So, as I said, welcome everyone. We're so glad that you could join us this evening for Cambrook's webinar on low protein cooking with our dear founder, Lynn Paolella. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. My name is Mary Susan Spears, and I am one of the clinical specialists here at Cambrook. Everyone is muted for the webinar, but if you have questions, feel free to type those into the chat box at any time and we will answer those at the end. Today's presentation will be recorded and you should have seen a notification of that as you joined today. If you would like a copy of the slides at the after our presentation today, feel free to email me. You'll see my email there, and you'll see it again at the end of the presentation. We also ask you to take just a minute or two at the end of the presentation. A short survey will pop up as you are exiting, and feel free to give us comments and suggestions about how we did and what future subjects you would like to learn about. So at this time, I would love to introduce you once again to one of our co-founders, Lynn Paolella, and she is a wonderful resource for the PKU and low protein community. And so I will turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you, Mary Susan, and thank you everybody for joining us. So I'll go to the next slide. Where's the other one? Was there another one? Maybe not. Okay, that's fine. So I will start by saying my PKU journey that would begin with my most important role and title. I always say this, and that is mom. And it began in 1992 when Cameron was born. Brooke came into the world 5 years later in 1997, and they both have classical PKU. Their older brother, Bryce, showed up on the scene before them in 1990. From the time of my children's diagnosis, my husband, David, and I were launched into the world of PKU, and life has not been the same since. In retrospect, however, we are thankful beyond measure for newborn screening and obviously better for the diagnosis. And we are also most thankful to be part of an amazing and supportive global community. Next slide. So just a brief history. Access to dietary therapy at an early age can provide a full life to individuals with inborn errors of protein metabolism, like my kids. It has been our mission as parents, and since the founding of Cambrook in 2000, to provide the best life possible for Cameron and Brooke and others like them. Our kids deserve better, and they deserve to grow up with all the self-esteem and dignity that they were entitled to. So we were on a mission to improve their diet and the lives of others in a similar situation, and Cambrook was born. Ajinomoto Cambrook, formerly Cambrook Therapeutics, was an expansion of Cambrook Foods from its founding year in 2000, and today our products are available in 26 major countries around the world. Next slide, please. So I share this slide to show a comparison of what was available in the 1990s when my kids were little compared to the fast growth that we pushed forward on in the 2000s. In the mid 90s, there were scarcely few foods in the specialty marketplace to feed a kid or young adult with PKU. Our first launch in 2000 would be what families really wanted most, and that was a good quality bread. Why? Because bread was the one food that could actually satisfy a hungry belly in up to 3 meals per day. We were so focused, and families around the country rallied behind us, and we quickly laid the foundation for producing many new product categories, including baking mixes, meat alternatives, fresh filled pastas, snacks, desserts, and so on. And since 2000, we have developed over 125 low protein food products, and we have managed to change the way people with inborn errors of protein metabolism experience their diet. Today, I'm happy to say that we are in over 400 school systems throughout the United States, and we are also in Disney World and on Disney Cruise Line ships. Food is freedom on so many levels, and I wanted our community to have more freedom of choice, and I think we've succeeded on this front. Next slide. So the holiday season is upon us, and with that comes all the fancy dinners and parties and potlucks and family gatherings. While sharing a meal with your favorite people can be one of the best joys, anxiety over what to prepare for the individual on a low protein diet can make things feel, well, I'd say a little bit complicated. So what we will cover today are tips for getting through the holiday meals when your diet is restricted. Planning your menu ahead will be key. Batch cooking and freezing to get ahead of the rush schedule. I will include various meal ideas and lots of food photos with colorful low protein dishes that I have taken during the holidays that span 3 decades for Cameron and Brooke. I hope they will inspire you to explore some new ways and traditions that have worked for my family, particularly if you struggle at this time of year. We will also share a holiday experience that was submitted by a very young community member, and we'll save that towards the end. What we won't be able to cover today are elaborate step-by-step recipes and cooking instructions. I'll go into a little bit, but not too much, but you can find many of our recipes on Cambrooks' website. So next slide, please. But before I move on, I'd like to share that I am joined today by Mary Susan Spears, who has already introduced herself. She's a metabolic dietitian and one of Cambrooks' very important clinical specialists. And she and I have teamed up to present you with some holiday recipe inspiration to get your creativity flowing just in time for the upcoming holidays, low protein style. Our colleague, Bridget Tomek, was supposed to be with us. She is also a clinical specialist. But unfortunately, her newborn had a different plan in mind. So Bridget is now out on maternity leave, but we thank her for her contributions so far to this program. Thanks, Bridget. And Mary Susan, of course. Next slide, please. So setting up your family for success in the kitchen should start early and create an appreciation for your loved one's diet and owning it. If you or your kiddos have not had enough exposure to cooking great tasting low protein food, it's never too late. The center picture is an illustration of me at an early age with Cameron and Brooke. They quickly learned at a young age how to scoop, measure, mix, and prepare some of their favorite foods. And fast forward to today, both are amazing and very adventurous cooks. The left frame shows Cameron and Brooke's older brother, Bryce. He's the guy with the beard. He's assisting a cooking class just this past June with the California Coalition for PKU and Allied Disorders organization. Bryce is very involved with his advocacy group as a way of giving back to the community that his brother and sister are a part of. Next slide. My family typically hosts the holiday meals, which I prefer because I have better control over the outcome. But we have also been the guests whose kids are the ones that need the accommodations. So if you're going to someone else's home for the holidays, I recommend you ask what is being served and try to manage everyone's expectations. For example, if mashed potatoes are on the menu, you might request that they be prepared with a non-dairy milk. I don't think that's an unreasonable request. And if gravy is on the menu, find out how it's made and be prepared to bring your own homemade or a jar of store-bought gravy. In fact, there are plenty of delicious options on the grocery shelf today with 0 grams of protein per serving, and they can always be doctored up to enhance the flavor. Ask your child or the individual on diet for their advice on what they'd like to have for the holiday meal. After all, who knows best better than them? And once the menu is planned, whether it's your own or the host's, discuss the foods ahead of time and ask the individual how they would like to be accommodated. What are their favorite dishes for the holiday meal? And of the available menu options, what works best for them, and plan accordingly. I also recommend considering making neutral dishes. It's always easier to add an ingredient to a dish than to remove it once it has already been incorporated. If you have your heart set on that sweet potato dish, for example, with dried cranberries, toasted pecans, and bacon crumbles, request or serve the toasted pecans and bacon crumbles in a separate dish on the side. Also consider shareable veggie-based foods that just everybody's going to love. We'll cover building a platter or family-style meals versus plating the whole meal for everybody. And I also say, please, make no apologies or express guilt when the host, or the guest for that matter, provides a special dish to accommodate your diet. Instead, share the gratitude. I can almost assure you that they will equally feel the pride for preparing something special for a loved one. With a well-planned dinner, all guests can be happy and well-fed. And lastly, have fun. You don't have to accommodate your guests for every single dish that is served. If your holiday would not be complete without your grandmother's special sausage stuffing, and I have one of those too, then include it. Don't miss out on your personal favorites, but do make the low protein accommodation. Everyone should have options they can eat and enjoy while also taking some of the pressure off you, especially if you were the host. So next slide. So cultures from around the world celebrate the holiday season for different reasons and in different ways, and food plays a central role in these celebrations and gatherings. From savory main dishes full of unique flavors to sweet desserts and treats that are made once a year, each culture brings a unique twist to the holiday season. Flavors from those seasonal fruits and harvest vegetables, herbs, and spices are so basic to creating these experiences, and above all, those memories. Next slide. Okay, guys listening, repeat after me. I don't need to make the whole meal. Whenever I go to holiday celebrations, not only do I expect to be asked to bring something, I really want to bring something to help out the host. If you're hosting, create a holiday menu and ask dinner guests to contribute something. A family member or close friend can bring anything from a bottle of wine to mashed potatoes. So I have 4 tips that I'm going to share here. So tip number 1, I recommend making a game plan. Number 2, make things ahead of time. 3, ask for help. And 4, figure out what you can make and what you can buy. These tips I'm sharing with you today are not just for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Hanukkah, etc. They can apply throughout the holiday season and are useful for dinner parties and other holiday events and entertaining really throughout the year. Next slide, please. So obviously Thanksgiving is upon us, and looking ahead to whether your family is celebrating Hanukkah or Christmas or other festivities, this time of year, we all know that we have something big planned for our holiday dinners that are coming up. Over the years, I've learned to begin planning our family menu, organizing the pantry for those usable ingredients for our meals, and shopping early to help cut down on those last-minute stressors. Planning out meals ahead of time definitely takes work, but it saves labor as well as mental energy in the long run. The easiest way I have found to do this is to sit down and write out all the meals the family enjoys. Put together a master shopping list, including produce, dry goods, and of course, your low-protein products and ingredients, and begin shopping, especially for those non-perishable and low-protein ingredients early. And the list I make this year, or actually in past years, because I've been doing this for a long time, I save them electronically on my computer or on my iPhone in the notes section for the next year so that simple modifications are all that's needed. There are many free holiday meal planners and templates just like these here for online printing. Next slide. So it's never too early to start prepping your low protein meal components. There are so many things that you can do in the 2 to 3 weeks or even months, if you're like me, leading up to the holiday event that can really help you when it's crunch time. You may be surprised to learn that your favorite low protein holiday meals can easily be frozen and reheated. For example, does your family love eggplant cutlets for use on their, eggplant Parmesan sub? Or what about meatballs or quiche or casseroles, arancini, which are Italian cheese-filled rice balls, my family's favorites? Make up a batch and freeze them for later use. You can do this with so many of your favorite holiday food items. Batch cooking can provide convenience, simplification, and flexibility. Entrees in the freezer provide takeout convenience with the aroma and appeal of freshly made dishes. Knowing dinner is near ready to go, it simplifies the preparation and promotes household calm and peace. We all need that. And having your freezer stocked with some important breakfast bakes, appetizers, entrees, and desserts provide flexibility, meaning you can welcome the holidays with many choices and with much less stress. Next slide. So here we have make ahead freezer-friendly desserts, and Cambrooks sugar cookie dough mix allows you to prepare your dessert favorites in convenient stages. The cookie dough mix is suitable for slice and bake cookies, filled cookie sandwiches, cutout cookies, and even fillable tartlets, and actually a whole bunch more, but I'll just cover a few. So for slice and bake sugar cookies, prepare and shape the dough into a round log and stick it in the fridge or freezer until you're ready to slice, bake, and finish them off as your filled cookie sandwiches or decorated with color sugar and frostings. And 2, for cutout cookies, this might be an aha moment for some. It doesn't have to be an all-day event. Like the previous suggestion, break up the process and do it in stages that will work into your schedule. Prepare your cutout cookies and bake and store in the freezer until you're ready to decorate. They can last in the freezer for, I think they say up to 6 months, but up to a year maybe. And for tartlets, with a mini scoop, portion and fill your tartlet molds or mini muffin tin with dough and then press and bake. They can be stored in the freezer at this point until you're ready to thaw and pipe, spread, or fill with jam, whipped cream, fruit, or other fillings of your choice. They're easy to make, so sweet and tasty, and look very impressive when served. So next slide. Making meals the whole family enjoys. Next slide. So these are all great low protein, quick and easy breakfast and brunch ideas, and all start with a uniquely designed low protein mix. Gingerbread mix obviously is great for making, well, gingerbread. But what about waffles and cookies or muffins and even donuts, all with that same mix? Mix Quick represents one of the first products we developed, and the intention was to mimic the amazing functionality of that self-rising Bisquick for those quick and easy recipes such as pancakes, waffles, mini quiche, casseroles, zucchini bread, and pear fritters that we have displayed here. Our eggs mix is another must-have in my pantry, which is awesome for making omelets. This is an actual photo below of one of my recipes, but also for making cheesy spaghetti squash waffles. What the heck? Who'd have thunk? Like, I can't express enough how delicious these are and how easy they are to make. And true to my passion, they're nutritious too. Next slide.
Lynn, I know we talked about this when we were preparing.
Yeah.
but I learned from a PKU mom the easiest way to prepare spaghetti squash, which is to microwave the thing whole after poking holes in it, and then let it cool, and you just scoop it out. It's ready to go. It's so easy
And
to
so
do.
much quicker than putting it in the oven.
Mhm.
And I've actually done that, and you just fork it out.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you. And please step in and, because I know you have lots of great tips because you've been cooking with our products for a long time too, Mary Susan. Okay, so here are some super delicious appetizers that are not only good during the holidays, but think about these for awesome year-round tasty options. Excuse me. Bruschetta, made from our artisan bread, can be seasoned and crisped in a toaster oven, pan fried, or grilled on the outdoor grill, or even pressed in a panini maker. Top these with low protein cream cheese and cranberry relish as seen here for the holidays, but think about the endless seasonal toppings you can add year round. In the center, the savory jelly and cream cheese appetizer is a delicious holiday tradition. It's super easy to make, and the whole family can enjoy these. And then we've got crusted cauliflower and an array of vegetables, including low-protein lotus root, which are made by dredging your favorite veggies or florets into a slurry of thin batter or mayo, I use both, and any of our patty mixes, which is applied like a crispy breading or coating before frying or grilling. The patty mix as a breading makes your finished appetizers super crispy on the outside and similar to what you'd expect in a restaurant. These two can be made in advance and frozen. Next slide. So some of the best hearty soups and bisques to serve throughout the holiday season are perfect for Thanksgiving or during Christmas week. But either way, they're an awesome meal on any chilly night of the year. The low-protein spicy ravioli soup in the center was dinner for Cameron and Brooke just last week, and Cameron made this from vegetable broth, Cambrook's new and improved ravioli or pierogi, because we've done both. And because my kids love a little heat, their soup is topped off with a crunchy chili and onion condiment from Trader Joe's. And by the way, Trader Joe's has tons of low protein acceptable products, so check them out if you haven't already. Next slide. So there's nothing more distinctively American than cranberries. One of America's native fruits, cranberries are not only beautiful and tasty, but they are a source of vitamin C, free of fat, low in calories, and relatively high in fiber. They're also very low in protein and an awesome ingredient for our community. Cranberry cooking for all seasons introduces cranberries as a star ingredient in hundreds of recipes, ranging from desserts, relishes, sauces, cookies, jams, salads, breads, muffins, and of course, delicious stuffing. They're not just for Thanksgiving anymore. We use these year round. Next slide.
And cranberries freeze great. So stock up
Done
now.
that.
Get your bags, throw them in the freezer, and they're perfect, ready to go when you are.
That's awesome. I love that. My mom, who's listening here, always makes the cranberry relish with oranges. Okay, so unique sauces and finishing touches literally begins for my family in the beginning of November when I try to figure out what to do with that ornamental Halloween pumpkin that decorated my front entryway. Yes, I have literally used that pumpkin, but only if it's in good shape, because after all, it's food, it's nutritious, and it's low protein. Pumpkin pesto is a recipe that I've made from our Halloween pumpkins over the years, and it's a simple and tasty condiment, ideal as a spread on bruschetta or for serving alongside pasta, like in the left slide. You can also use like a butternut squash if you don't use your leftover pumpkin. Toppings like pad thai sauce over rice or sweet and sour sauce with your favorite low protein meatballs are available on our website in the recipe section. Homemade store-bought gravies to enhance your favorite or soon to be favorite holiday or anytime meals are easy to whip up. So the vegetable rustica on the bottom right slide is a more complicated recipe I made, but it is so worth the time to create, and it freezes well too. All of these recipes, once again, are available on Cambrooks' website. Next slide. And speaking of finishing touches, compound butter is a delicious staple in my fridge all the time, and an easy way to take your cooking up a notch. It is simply butter mixed with a variety of other ingredients that add sweet or savory flavors like honey, herbs, garlic, lemon, or orange zest. You can use dried fruit. I have listed some of my favorites for you here in the bottom right. Compound butter sounds complicated, but it's really super easy to make. I do it in my food processor, and it's literally done in 10 minutes. You start with softened butter, you whip it with other ingredients, form it into the desired shape, and chill into firm. So what can you do with compound butter? The real question is, what can't you do with compound butter? And here are just a few ways that I use it. I spread it on bread, toast, muffins, waffles, and more. I use it as a flavor enhancer over hot vegetables. I use it as an ingredient in baked goods or in rich sauces. And I stir it into pasta or rice to add delicious flavors. Another thing that I do with this is I'll roll it into a log in parchment paper, and I will tie it off with a piece of raffia or a piece of string on either side, label it with whatever I have, mixed in with it. And I bring that as a hostess gift if I'm going to somebody else's home, and I share that with them. And it's just something from my home, my kitchen to yours, and I always have these on hand. So next slide. So because meats, grains, rice, and seafood are typical staples in nearly every household throughout the year, not just during the holiday season, of course, Cambrook has created numerous low protein substitutes that not only taste good, but they are uniquely versatile for nearly hundreds of alternative recipe ideas. But also think about those naturally low in protein alternative products readily available at your local grocery stores, such as mushrooms for all kinds of meat and seafood replacements, jackfruit pulled pork, have you heard of that? Cauliflower steaks, sweet potatoes as an amazing bacon substitute. I've made that a bunch. Hearts of palm, cauliflower rice, and cassava meal are just some items that I regularly use for Cameron's and Brooks protein substitutes. Next slide. So I want to share some important tips on how to prepare and work with Cambrooks patty mixes, because not everybody understands these products, and I want to help demystify this. So basic preparation instructions for all of our meat substitutes are to add liquid, water or broth, and fat, oil or butter. A natural ingredient inherent in each of my products is known as cassava, also known as yuca and mandioca, and they come from the same source as tapioca. They're all from different parts of that plant. Anyway, when you add liquid to the mix, to the meat alternative mixes, the cassava, which is inherent in each of these products, is hydrophilic, meaning it's liquid loving. And when you mix it together, it creates a Play-Doh like consistency, making the dough very pliable, but actually it's fun to work with. So I like to roll out the dough and punch out with cookie cutter shapes or press into round patty shaped molds. You can cook in a well-oiled pan or freeze for later use. Although the patty mixes already contain a nice blend of dried veggies and savory seasonings, you can still add additional shredded vegetables to increase nutrition, yield, and flavor. I'll go into more of these mixes as I share some of my family's favorite meals. So next slide. Versatility and convenience is what our mixes is all about. Each of our mixes can be served on their own as a patty, or they can be combined with ingredients such as onion, garlic, peppers, low-protein cheese, and in this case, Mexican seasonings to be used as a filler in these awesome taco cups that are shown on the left. They can be used as breadcrumbs or as a breading coating for deep frying. They can be used as a binder to hold other veggie ingredients together, or they can be used as an important ingredient to make this basic ground beef recipe that when you make it, it can be stored in the fridge or the freezer and used as a raw ingredient to make dozens of other recipes such as meatballs, meatloaf, chili, stuffed peppers, anything you can think of. You get the idea. Anything that you would prepare with ground beef can be applied to this simple, basic ground beef recipe. Next slide, please. So here we feature our seafood patty mix, and when mixed with a combination of butter, water, or preferably my favorite, bottled clam juice in place of the water, you can create all these amazing seafood type foods or noshes. These are my recipes, my images that I have created for Cameron and Brooke and all of you. So baked stuffed clams is a recipe on our website, and you can purchase these beautiful scalloped shells on Amazon, and they are oven safe for baking. So those little crispy fishies in the center left slide are produced with one sheet of dough spread out, and that multi-cutter on the top right with the little fish shapes. So you roll this out, and with one press into the sheet of dough, it produces 72 fish fries at one time. It's awesome. And think about how you can serve them on their own, like French fries or little finger noshes, or in fish tacos with tartar sauce. Crab cakes are also a favorite in my home, especially around the holidays. It's all about flavor, versatility, and adaptation. Next slide, please. So check out how our patty mixes work as a flavorful binder when mixed with all of these ingredients. So you can make patties, nuggets, croquettes, and even fillable canopy cups that you can serve with your choice of filling, anything, I don't know, broccoli and cheese, for example, or with your favorite dipping sauce. But it is, the patty mix is like the glue that holds all of these together. And it is nutritious, and it is binding, and it is awesome, and it adds that crispy, outer layer when you have pan fried. Next slide. So I could do an entire webinar just on these meatballs. And although I hate to sound like a commercial, sorry, bear with me as I describe these to you, and I'm watering. These are Japanese style or Korean style meatballs. I make both, but while both are very similar, they taste vastly different from each other. Both are super flavorful and off the charts, crazy delicious. My whole family has been obsessed with these Asian meatballs since I started making them about 10 years ago. They're typically made with ground chicken or pork, but I substitute the meat with any of our patty mixes in combination with jackfruit or shredded mushrooms, or a combination of both. I blend the mixture with a little ginger, toasted sesame oil, and scallions, and when combined, rolled and pan fried, and then doused with either the Japanese or the Korean barbecue sticky sauce, it just adds explosive flavor. They make a fantastic appetizer served on a skewer, or hearty meal option when paired with rice and vegetables to make your own personalized rice bowl. These too can be made ahead and stored in the freezer. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to go into some of my family's holiday favorites. So for me, Thanksgiving has all the elements of the perfect holiday. We get to eat delicious food, spend time with family and friends, and we don't even have to leave the house. Why? Because my family is typically the ones that are hosting. But what could be better than an entire holiday that revolves around food? And as a mom, it's my pleasure to prepare the meal, especially for Cameron and Brooke. And by the way, their aunt is gluten intolerant, so she shares in some of their meals too. Because there are tons of side dishes, there are always so many choices for everyone. So for the main meal, in place of turkey, I have made little drummies like you see in the slide, but always mashed potato and gravy, squash, low protein stuffing, mini quiche, breaded cauliflower, and cornbread are always on the low protein menu. Next slide, please. So going into the winter holiday season begins with Hanukkah. Although I'm not Jewish, I still absolutely love latkes. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Who wouldn't love these crispy, savory potato dish? I prepare them with shredded potato, green onion, seasonings, and Mix Quick holds the ingredients together when cooked. Matzah ball soup can be made with low protein bread, baking mix, and delicious seasoned broth, typically a vegetarian broth. Noodle kugel is a traditional Jewish holiday dish made from noodles baked in a sweet custardy type of middle, which I actually made once. And I used low protein cream cheese, butter, and sugar for the noodle filling. It's almost like having dessert at dinner time. And then unleavened bread would be easy to produce with low protein baking mix. And I understand that jelly donuts and chocolate coins are a must have during Hanukkah. And these two can easily be produced with low protein baking mix and chocolate substitutes. Next slide, please. So Italian Christmas dinner is a classic celebration meal in my family. Eggplant rollatini on the left is a traditional favorite, and I make it with thinly sliced eggplant that has been breaded and fried until almost crispy, then rolled around seasoned low-protein cheese, mozzarella, and parsley filling. Topped with a simple marinara sauce is how they're finished off. These can be made ahead and also kept frozen. Arancini, again, are those cheese-filled Italian rice balls, and they too are a low-protein favorite. With both of these dishes, I do make a low-protein and a high-protein different versions, and in all honesty, they both really look nearly the same to each other. The jelly-filled cookies made with our sugar cookie dough provide a sweet ending, and I make these from scratch for my kids, and all these dishes are just so normal looking. Next slide, please. So now I'd like to share how my family typically dines together during the holidays. Family style eating is how we roll, and it is a type of dining style that is, less formal than a plated meal, but more formal than a buffet. Essentially, large serving dishes or platters are brought to the table and can be served from a revolving tray like a turntable, or passed around for each person to serve their own plate. Everyone has control of what they add to their plates or what they choose not to have. One of the images I'd like to point out in the top right frame, when I serve spaghetti at my home and Cameron and Brooke are with us, we all eat the low protein spaghetti. This particular pasta dish is made with olive oil, lemon, garlic, and either low protein or gluten-free seasoned breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs that look a lot like Parmesan cheese keeps the sauce from draining to the bottom of your dish, which provides amazing flavor throughout the pasta. Next slide. I'm just sharing more family style dining photos from my family's meals over the years, and everyone gets to choose from the many options on each platter. Included on the top left image are sauteed plantains. I don't know if you guys cook with plantains, but they're awesome. And I serve those along with roasted peppers, zucchini, and onions. always with sides of bread. If I'm serving any kind of meat at this dish, this dining experience, the meat would be the side dish, not the other way around. And as a side note, Cameron and I share a passion, and that's mushroom foraging. This isn't for anyone, for everybody, I mean, and I get that. But the top image are the amazing maitake mushrooms that he and I collected from the forest and prepared with garlic seasonings and thyme. And oh my God, it is over the top amazing. We've even purchased mushroom growing kits over the years to grow our own mushrooms at home. Next slide. So for those of you that don't know me or know me well, I will share that I was brought up on the South Shore of Long Island, New York, and boating, fishing, clamming, etc. was a part of life. I lived every summer of my youth on the family boat, and I have to tell you, if we were hungry, we literally had to catch it. Seafood was and still is a big part of my life. So I have always looked for ways to accommodate Cameron and Brooke with seafood-like dishes that they have come to appreciate and can be incorporated into our summertime and winter holiday meals. At the end of the day, it all goes back to adapting recipes to our lifestyle and culture. And just for the record, I just wanted to share this. I don't think yeah. So these are basically hearts of palm. They come in cans, hearts of palm, and you just slice them up and you prepare them in a pan as if they were scallops. And you can add all kinds of, seasonings, ingredients, similar to how you might make scallops. It's not for everybody, I get that, but it's part of our lifestyle. Next slide, please. So multi-ethnic holiday menus come in all flavors, and here are some low-protein favorites that really don't need to wait for the holidays to serve them up. Next slide. And now I'm going to pass it over to my friend, Mary Susan.
So, as we were planning this and Lynn was talking about her favorite family dishes, I explained to her some of our favorite family meals or dishes here in the South. And broccoli rice is a very common dish or casserole to have at any holiday meal. Many times the first freeze is right around Thanksgiving. So sometimes fried green tomatoes might be on the menu. And of course, mac and cheese is always a fan favorite for any meal.
And I've made those fried green tomatoes. I haven't made them often, but oh my God, they're good. They're so good. Okay, so here are some fun party appetizers suitable for New Year's Eve, or of course, anytime. I snapped most of these food photos just before they were consumed by Cameron and Brooke, and they represent some of their favorite meals. What's really funny is how much Cameron and Brooke hated me for filling the air with these awesome aromas from the food that I was cooking and preparing, and then shouting out just before they went to grab a bite. I would yell, "Don't touch those before I snap a photo." Oh gosh. Anyway, thank you. Next slide. And I'm going to turn it back over to you.
So I actually had fun this week experimenting with our gingerbread mix. And you can see here, I made the gingerbread waffles. And instead of syrup or butter, I actually made a lemon drizzle with just lemon juice and powdered sugar. So good. And then you can see I made little mini buntlets similar to, nothing bundt cakes that you might get. And of course, nothing says gingerbread like a gingerbread man or gingerbread cookies for Hanukkah. And so we wanted to make sure I actually took these to a metabolic clinic today and shared them with all the dietitians and practitioners. They thought they were great.
I love that. I've never done this before, but I have had people tell me that they've made gingerbread houses from the mix by getting, I think there must be a baking pan, right? That has the mold for making your gingerbread house. Awesome. Okay, so here are some holiday endings to your hopefully perfect celebratory meals. The pizzellis on the bottom right are made from Mix Quick, and you can doctor them up with, some, I don't know, whether it's vanilla or anise or whatever your favorite flavor is, and sugar. And they can be rolled, if you put it in a pizzelli maker, they can be rolled into these awesome cannoli shells that are fillable. Again, these and the last slide that you just showed, Mary Susan, with the gingerbread and the waffles, all of these can be made ahead and frozen. So next slide, please. So here's an example of thinking outside the box or the package. One low protein brownie mix has been tested with dozens of recipe ideas. Think about brownie bars, brownie bites, fillable brownie cups, and sprinkled brownie pops. You can even microwave a single serving for that quick chocolate fix. That takes less than 5 minutes, less than that, to put together. We offer many of these recipes on Cambrooks websites, and this is yet another product that can be made in batches and stored in the freezer. Next slide, please. So you can elevate each of these mixes pictured here to create hundreds of dessert recipes. Oddly enough, although very different mixes, each of them, they're all made with very similar dry ingredients, but the end product is quite different based on the recipe that's provided on the package. So it calls into question, what is the difference between these mixes? They all call, well, they're different flavors, that's number one, but they all call for the addition of fat, such as butter or oil, and liquid, mainly non-dairy milk or water, but the ratio of liquid and fat to each of the powdered mixes will determine whether you will have a dough or a batter and the ultimate end result. So stay tuned for some upcoming recipes using each of these mixes to produce many, many different recipes. So now I'm going to turn the presentation back over to my friend Mary Susan from Texas.
So think about, it's not just your foods that can dress up for the holidays. You can dress up your formula. So all of these pictures here are actual recipes that Lynn made, and you can use your Glytactin ready to drinks or even your buttermilk to make an eggnog. The swirl works great as the custard filling of a sugar cookie dough tartlet, and top it with fresh fruit for a wonderful fresh dessert. Or add some simple spices like cinnamon and nutmeg to your build or your buttermilk to make a Mexican horchata.
Can I interject something there too? One of the things, so another thing that I have often told patients is typically formulas are mixed with water, but I have actually mixed them with non-dairy milk, and you get a whole different flavor profile. It's a little creamier. It's really nice. I've also taken products like our Restore powder, the flavored Restore powder, and I mix it with club soda. Don't shake it.
No.
Stir, not shake. Stir it, but it makes an amazing soda. So anyway.
We also have a hot chocolate recipe for you. This here uses Glytactin or Trilactin RTDs, but Lynn brought up a good point when we were chatting earlier that you could now use the Glytactin chocolate swirl to make a hot chocolate as well. So I wanted to share our story that we received from Lindsay Killian. This here is her son, JT, and his favorite meal is to use jackfruit to make a pulled turkey meat. And you can see here that they kind of mash up the jackfruit, cook it with a little bit of chicken flavored broth and water, and serve it with a side of vegetables, cranberry sauce, and of course his favorite French fries. And it just so happens that JT's dad also has PKU. So they share this meal together.
That's awesome. Okay, so we want to thank everybody for joining us today. But before saying goodbye, I'd like to share that another thing about me, and that is that I am a founding member of the New England Connection for PKU and Allied Disorders, also known as NECPAD. And we are celebrating our 30th anniversary this year as a very engaged and very, very busy advocacy organization. Pictured on the left is me lobbying for the Medical Nutrition Equity Act with a fellow advocate. As a disclosure, NECPAD is not associated with Cambrooke at all. I was a founding member of NECPAD many years before Cambrooke ever existed. And then on the right side, my husband Davidson, my 3 young adult kids. Bryce is a biochemist, and he is involved in cancer research. He lives in California. And for that reason, he also sits on the board of directors of the California Coalition for PKU and Allied Disorders. Cameron is a registered nurse and works at one of the leading teaching hospitals in the Boston area. And Brooke is a graphic designer, and she too also works in the Boston area. And she often accompanies me at various advocacy networking events and cooking demos. And lastly, it wasn't that long before Cameron was born that children were taken off diet. And sadly, that era of individuals paid a very dear price for my kids and later generations. And I want to say, I'm going to cry now, I am eternally grateful for the Diet for Life campaign. And as a shout out to the more mature audience here today, I am indebted to you, and I will always honor the generations that came before my kids. And I know there's one woman, I believe she's on from Australia, and she was the first diagnosed PKU in Australia. And if you're there, Debbie, I'm sending a shout out to you because I love you. And I want to thank you for your contribution. So no matter what you eat during this time of year, Mary Susan and I would like to wish you all happy holidays and bon appetit. Thank you very
If
much.
you would like to have a copy of the slides, as I mentioned earlier, just send me an email at the end of this and we will be happy to share those. Now, in order for us to see the questions that may have come in, I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen. And then I can look here and see if we have anything that has come through the chat. We don't yet at this point. But Lynn, I know you and I talked a lot when preparing these slides. And I'm sorry, I looked in the wrong section. Oh, okay. Lots of thank yous. So we're glad that it was helpful. And lots of thank yous also for the work that you do, Lynn. So we appreciate hearing that. If you had your very favorite, could make only one recipe for the holiday, and it's the holiday, it means the holiday to you, what would it be?
Rollatini. It's Italian. Rollatini because we all eat the same. So that's a dish that that my husband David, my son Bryce, and myself, non-PKU, we share the same thing as Cameron and Brooke. So yeah, it's, for the most part, sometimes we make a separate side, separately, but yeah, it's Italian.
I am popping the slides back up again because it was asked that could we share the email, And so I popped that up. And for those of you that do get the slides, I have put links for all of the recipes that were featured. So if it has a line underneath the name of whatever the recipe might be, that's an auto link. You just click on it, it'll take you right to the page.
Awesome.
And if we don't have any additional questions at this point, I think we will let everyone go enjoy their evening. And we appreciate you joining us once again. And we hope to see you at future webinars. Have a great evening and happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Bye, Mary Susan.
Bye-bye. I'm going to stop the webinar now. So I will chat with you later.
All right. Have a great rest of your evening. And thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mary Susan.
Bye.